At SAFESECURE 360, we do a lot of assessments for schools and churches and corporations, taking a look at what they have now with security, policy, infrastructure, cameras, planning, and training. We've been doing a lot of school assessments recently, and we've noticed that our clients use different methods of screening visitors when they come to the school. Maybe they're a potential parent and they want to enroll their school and they want to take a look at the school. We're going to talk about today how to properly screen a visitor that you don't know who is presenting themselves at the school for a tour, and whether you should let them in to what I call the sacred area of the school where they have contact with students. Thanks for joining us. It's a SAFESECURE 360 podcast. There's safety in numbers.
Lieutenant Robert Henry is an honorably retired law enforcement commander from Houston with over 35 years of public service experience. I'm Daniel Ziegler. I've been asking questions all my life, and on this show, I do my best to ask the questions that the public would like to know the answer to. The SAFESECURE 360 podcast is intended to provide you, the listener, with information about current events and ongoing societal challenges to help make your life safer. Thank you for listening. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. There is safety in numbers. Well, Robert, thanks for sitting down with us. Like you said, we've been doing a lot of school assessments. We've been traveling Texas, looking at schools. And why don't we start with, I don't know if you would even know about this unless you were in the school system or worked with schools every day. What's the big deal about visitor credentialing? Why even talk about this?
A school has very valuable assets within it, children and staff and faculty. You see so many of these active shooters who pick schools to enact these crimes. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. If you want to get someone's attention and you want full-blown attention as to what's going on, harm or injure or kill a child. It works every time. So a school is by nature an educational facility, a place of learning, a place of social interaction. And due to these active shooter frequencies and choices of schools as the place where they commit these crimes, the schools have to do more to determine who is allowed within the gates or the fences or the buildings of these schools. So the way you do that is to develop some type of visitor, contractor, external person who's not a teacher, a staff member, a facilities person, a student, a parent. How do we screen them, or how do we approve them to enter into our school? We don't know who they are. We don't know their intentions. There was just a case that we did where a purported grandfather went to a school, made an appointment to enroll his grandson, was granted access inside the school. He's meeting with the admissions person. The next thing you know, he pulls out a firearm, shoots some children, and kills himself. So I think that visitor credentialing is very important, because rather than just responding to a voice on the phone or an email from someone that you don't know saying, hey, I'd love to tour the school, I want to enroll my son or daughter, you need to go one step further and use some type of credentialing to either allow or reject that visit. It's very important. SAFESECURE 360. We are a security consulting group located in the Woodlands, Texas. We assist our multiple clients by reducing their risk, loss, and reputation impact. We also do full security assessments on their facilities, large churches, large private schools in Texas, and we want to help you. Take a look at our website, safesecure360.com.
So typically the role of the school that does this, everything you're saying is right. This is so, there's kids on the other side of this doorway. the person that's sitting at the doorway protecting the space is generally the receptionist or the front area visitor person. And they usually use some kind of computer system to run driver's license generally through a database to do quick background checks. I want to talk about the role of the receptionist. This is a superstar role I didn't know any of this before, but as I've come to do these assessments, I realize that this is an important person because they're not only setting the mood for the school. You want a school to have a certain culture of excellence and of education. So the way this person talks to you is important. But also they're able to stop you from going any further into the school. So let's talk about the receptionist role a little bit. And for those that don't know, when you come to a school and you check in, you'll generally present your driver's license, and the receptionist will run this through some background checking. Tell us more about the background check process they're generally doing.
The receptionist in a school, you may seem a less than significant role as a teacher or a director of the school or the head of the school, but it's my opinion that they are one of the most important people in the school, because I call them the gatekeeper, because they are the ones who have the initial contact with someone from the outside who wants to come inside. And they need to be policy driven as to what the process is to credential or screen a person who wants to come there. So typically what happens is a person will call the school or email the school and say, hey, I want to enroll my son. I'd like to take a tour of the school. They say, okay, that's great. Let's do that. Come at 2 o'clock on Wednesday and plan on spending an hour here, and we'll be glad to show you and your wife or you and your husband or even the child around. So that's all set up in the front end of this. At some point, typically, before that person is allowed inside the secured area of the school, which could mean a door, which could mean a fenced area, a gated area, a locked area, a lunchroom, a classroom, anywhere inside the school, even an external playground, that person needs to submit and be required to submit, in my opinion, a valid driver's license with their current photo or a photo that resembles them on it. And then once that photograph and that driver's license is presented to the gatekeeper, the receptionist, many schools have credentialing processes in place that take that information and scan the driver's license or enter the information manually into a database that is looking for sexual-related offenders or looking for other similar offense types, which then will let the person doing the inquiry know there's a problem, there's a conflict. This person is not recommended or suggested to be allowed into that setting. So there are many different methods to run this background check, but it is checking for public records, it's checking for final convictions, it's checking for probated offenses, it's checking for offenses where this person's been arrested and there is some type of conclusion that's been made in this case. Once that happens, then it's up to the school, again, by policy, if that person's rejected, to how do you handle it then? If the person's approved, then typically a printed badge with their photo is typically produced, or they're given some type of credential that they wear while they're on this tour. And the tours are supervised by a staff member or a faculty member entirely. So I think that that process of credentialing is a critically important process, because it now lets you know at least who you're dealing with. And if a husband comes and a wife comes, both need to submit the driver's license. I suggest doing it in advance of the visit. So it can be scanned, or it can be emailed, or it can be sent in some way to the receptionist to be able to clear them before they arrive. That way you have an opportunity to say, look, there's a problem and we can't allow you to come into the school grounds today, or an opportunity to say you've been approved. I think as a prospective parent going to a school, I would like this process. I would say, look, I'm glad you're doing this. It may be a little bit of an inconvenience, but I'm glad you're doing it. So affixing the identity of the person who wants to visit is a sound practice and a best practice, because at least you have some information. Do you know what they're going to do when they get inside? You don't. You don't know. But at least by visiting the campus, you may have some signage about prohibited weapons. You may see some doors that are locked that you can't get through without approval or without escort. Those are all good steps to be able to firm up your concept of we have a very safe school. Well, that sounds great. Do you really? Yes. And I'm seeing all these characteristics and all these policy-driven processes that are leading me to the conclusion that, yes, this is a good school. I want my child to go here.
Well, thank you all for watching and listening. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and click the like button on this episode. This will keep you up to date with what we're up to, and it will help our channel grow and reach new people. Like we always say, there is safety in numbers. You talked about a rejection policy or a policy-driven approach to rejection. How does a school go about creating a policy, and who would need to know about this policy in order to, like when, let's say a visitor is rejected, but they're standing in front of the receptionist. Now there could be an awkward moment, if not previously trained, where the receptionist knows something they don't want to know, and they all of a sudden have to make a decision that they don't know about. So let's go ahead and talk about the solution to that, which is creating a policy beforehand. What does the policy look like for visitor rejection, and who would need to be trained in that?
Yeah, there needs to be a school written policy about credentialing of a contractor or a visitor, and then there needs to be a subset there about what happens if they're denied visits due to some alert that they've received in the background check. Who makes that decision? Who denies them? Who can waive it? Who can conditionally approve it? How does that work? It needs to be in policy ahead of time. And my advice is, if you have a rejection like that, if you have security officers on the campus, or you have police off-duty officers on the campus that are police officers, my advice is send them a nonverbal communication saying, can you come by the reception area and just stand by? We have a rejected visitor. That way, now you are getting them engaged and your security people engaged, because what if this de-escalates, or what if it escalates into a really big problem where the person says that information's wrong, that's not true, that's very old, I can be admitted. So that when that conflict opportunity occurs, get ready for it ahead of time and have a response for it versus a unwritten reaction where you don't know what you're going to do. So also alerting the police or security in a non-emergency way by text or email or something is a good idea, but also you need to bring in a decision maker, and the policy should define who that is, who can interpret this information and speak for the school as an official. The receptionist may have that ability and authority. They should be included in the policy and defined as to what their actions are. However, if they don't have that authority or that much authority, then they need to bring somebody in who is the head of school, a dean of students, whoever the executive director is, if they're available, or there should be a couple of them named as a designee. So if that head of school is not there, you could summon some other leadership level position to come there and then tell them, hey, Mr. Smith here is trying to access the school. as a visitor. However, we got this back. So that shouldn't be the first time an administrator sees what a rejection looks like. It should have been already a training process, and you should have already thought about this. What happens if we get a rejection? They're going to be rare. But what happens if we do get a rejection? Who's going to make that decision? And then what happens if the person objects to it and insists that it's not them, that it is old or inaccurate information, or it's been somehow wrongly purported to be them? Who is going to handle that conversation? And then what happens if it escalates? Who is going to be there to make sure that everybody's safe? And that's where your security officer and your off-duty police officer come in, and they would act at the direction of the leadership of the school to say, you have to leave, or they may want more information, or there may be some other process that they're looking at. But having that school security person and having the police officer on standby, and then integrating the leadership person, that's the way to go.
What I was going to ask next, you started talking about this, so it made me curious. You mentioned that the policy defines who has the final say in approval or denial. In some schools where the receptionist is maybe a long-term faculty member that's been there for a long time, it may make sense that the receptionist is the trusted person to do this. But in some schools, it may be the head of school that makes the final decision. So I was just going to ask further, what if the person that you're interviewing, they passed the credentialing process, but you have a weird feeling about them? This is something you can't quite say why, but you just have this weirdest feeling. What do you do in that situation? Do you trust your gut and err on the side of safety, or do you be polite to the visitor? Where's the balance in that situation?
You're going to just have to draw on your instincts about that and ask, what is unusual about this person now that they've cleared the credentialing process? Why are they asking these questions that are unusual questions? Why are they carrying something that is not commonly carried? Why are they dressed inappropriately if it's really hot outside and they have a coat on? Why are they wearing gloves? There could be many things visually and behaviorally that they may present themselves to you with that may raise some type of suspicion. So when that happens, integrate someone else, bring someone else into that dynamic where this other person can also be your backup and can also view these things, and you can make a decision based on this behavior, whether this interview is over or this tour is over and it's time for you to leave the school. Simply clearing the credentialing process does not ensure that this is going to go okay. As we talked about, the guy out in I believe in Tennessee who presented himself and then killed some children and killed himself. So I think that involving other people besides just yourself is a great idea. And if it's really strange, involving your security and reporting this behavior to them is a very important and good step.
I want to go back to the receptionist area of the school. Like I said earlier, a lot of schools have these vestibule areas where you can walk into the front doors of the school, but then there's another set of doors in front of you that's locked. What is the advantage of that rather than locking the front door? What's the difference of the vestibule? What does that do for the school?
A vestibule is kind of a confusing name, but think of it as a set of doors that lead you into a waiting area, and then another set of doors that enter you into the school itself. So having the ability to enter that first set of doors could get you out of the weather. It could allow you to assimilate there before you assemble there, before you do your business and state your reason why you're there, if you have an appointment or if you're there for some purpose. So keeping that visitor who was not pre-screened in that holding area without allowing them access into the school is a great idea. So we encourage that to occur at your main entry points. Have an area that has an audible and visual, like a Ring camera style access, and then once they're inside the first set of doors, then be able to integrate with them and ask them, hey, why are you here? Can I help you? And what's going on? And then ultimately, when you decide to allow them in, let them in.
If you're a receptionist who is working in a school and you don't know the policy about visitor credentialing or visitor denial, how do you go about finding out about what the policy is, or getting some training on that? How would you? I was just thinking there may be receptionists that haven't had this training that could talk it out, and maybe the school could make a change there.
Yeah, policy. We talk a lot about policy. Policy is the roadmap. Policy is the plan. Policy is what directs you to follow certain rules. And if you deviate from those policies or you deviate from those rules, then bad things can happen. So the policy is not only driven to influence visitor credentialing, but many, many processes. But the process of denial of a visitor is so rare, typically, that you may not think it's important, but it is important, and you need to have a policy about it. When it happens, who are you going to call, what is going to be the response, and what are we going to do about this? So policy-driven information is critically valuable to you to do.
So we've talked a lot about why it's such a big deal to come into a school, because all the other parents dropped their kids off that day is the answer to that. And all the other kids are there without this visitor's business really affecting any of them. So having that barrier point where someone really well-trained can decide if they're allowed to have access is extremely important. And receptionists and entry people at schools should recognize how important their role is. Sometimes they don't quite understand how much power they have right there, that they're the gatekeeper, like you said, of the school, and they're allowing and denying access. You have any other ideas for a receptionist, or anything they could think about that would make their job feel more secure, make them feel more effective?
I think before you get to the receptionist should tell you on the phone, hey, I want you to come to the school office. You enter the parking area off of this street. There may be multiple parking areas, there may be multiple entry exits. I want to focus you to the school office. Then you're given those instructions. Now, what's your signage like in your parking lot? Is it clear and is it evident? You drive there every day. You know where the school office is. You drive there every day. You go in the same door every day. What about me? I'm a visitor. I don't know. So having signage in the parking lot, daytime and lit at night, directing you to the school office, funneling you to that one point versus going in some secondary door or going in the playground area or approaching that area, not good. Focus and funnel your visitors or uncredentialed people to the office. Make it very simple for them to understand. Make it very simple for them to get there.
I think what I'm hearing you say is that the school sets a precedent and funnels people the direction they want them to go through their processes that align with their policy. That's the best way that a school can deal with bringing people onto the visitor. We need visitors. We want a new group of children to enroll next year, and we want to have parents be able to come pick up their kids. And so having it be totally locked is not the solution to that, because you have to have some people in. But directing each new person into the culture of the school and into the way that they feel, and into what their policy says, is a really good idea. And the soonest they can do that, the best. From the original phone call saying, let me go ahead and start letting you hear how our policy works, is a really great idea. Well, thank you for talking to us about this. This is so interesting to me. And the more schools I go to and the more different ways I see people coming in and out of the school, the more important I realize what this role is. So it was fun to talk about, and let's go receptionists. Y'all have a great job. If you're watching at home, thank you so much, or listening. Thank you for spending time with us this week, and thank you for learning with us. We do this show to help you feel more safe and secure in your life. If you haven't already, go ahead and click like on this video and subscribe to our channel. This keeps you up to date with what we're doing lately, and it helps our channel grow and reach new viewers that could hear some of these ideas. As we always say, there is safety in numbers. Thank you for watching the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. The information provided in our podcasts is for general information uses only and is not intended as legal advice. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are their own. Always consult with a qualified professional before making safety and security decisions. For more information about this topic, check out our website at safesecure360.com.